Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to Prop Live, your weekly prop and costume making Q&A session. I'm Bill. They call me Bill Solo, like Han Solo. Only Bill. Because it's just me today. You got me. Of course, Brittany, my lovely wife, is in the chat. Lady Longshanks hanging out, keeping an eye on all of you guys, you roustabouts or rapscallions or whatever. I don't know what a roustabout is. Is that a carny term? I think it is. Anyway, hey, flying solo today. Got a pile of questions from you guys, and I might as well just dive right into it. Get caught up. It's been a week, because we went to San Diego Comic-Con, and we did not have Prop Live last week. But I did shoot a bunch of video there. For example, the Mechanist. My Mechanist costume went to Comic-Con, and we had a lot of fun. Ran around. Brittany shot a bunch of video of me being goofy. And here is the Mechanist eye view. Oh, let's turn it down a little bit. Yeah, that's what it looks like inside of there. That's a pretty close approximation to what it is to try and see out of that thing. But yeah, we went to Comic-Con. I got to be a model for some artists, which was really fun. And a whole lot of other cool stuff. So not only did we shoot our own video, but the guys at Sneaky Zebra shot their video. And of course you want to go check that out because A, it's awesome and they're awesome. But B, I'm in that too. So you want to run over there and check that out. So go subscribe to Sneaky Zebra over on YouTube and check out their videos. Their videos are much prettier than mine, but that's their thing. Lots of really fun, cool stuff. Of course, we'll have links to both of those videos. Hey, look at that guy. I know that guy. There you go. We'll have links to both of those in the notes of this episode. You can go check those out, or just pause it, go look up Sneaky Zebra on YouTube and subscribe to them immediately. They are the coolest guys, and they always make really great stuff. Let's see. Chrome Effect Studios wants to know if there will be a Prop Tart meetup in Vegas. Probably not. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants for that one, and there's a lot I just haven't planned for. It's so close to Comic-Con, and then we'll be getting ready for Dragon Con soon, and I'm really playing catch up this week, so probably not going to plan a formal meetup, but we'll see. We'll play it by ear. But speaking of Super Toy Con, that's where I'm going to be in a week, in Las Vegas, Nevada, for Super Toy Con. Me and a bunch of other cosplay friends, and I should bring up the guest list and show you guys. There it goes, guests. Me and a bunch of other cool guests are going to be there doing some panels. They'll have a cosplay contest, and I'll have a booth there, and I will have books if you're in town and you would like to purchase said books, and I will be happy to sell you one. So, among you may have heard of some of these other guests, like John Cena. Apparently he will only be there on Sunday. A bunch of other cool guests, including not just legendary wrestlers, but Greg Grunberg and people from Battlestar Galactica and other cosplayers like Ireland Reed, Sophia Sivan, and some of my other awesome friends like Ivy Doom Kitty and Ricky and Hulkbuster. Me and Hulkbuster, we go way back. And then there's me, hooray, there's Bill, and the original My Little Pony creator. I have no idea what to expect from Super Toy Con, but I will be there, and if you're in town, you should come by too. We'll hang out with Mitsula. It'll be a great time. Yeah. Oh, Mel, Wind of the Stars. Mel, another good buddy, is going to be there. So that's going to be fun. 1 week from today, that is Super Toy Con. And well, obviously we'll have a link to that in the show notes too. So that photo, Ninja Moose says that photo looks like a different person. That was me a couple years and a couple pounds ago there, Ninja Moose. That's my Commander Shepard. And that was at the height of my previous level of fitness. What else do we have here? Oh, Mecha Buddha Cat. Of course we have to show this off. We were farting around with the Mechanist costume and made Mecha Buddha Cat. It's Buddha Cat with the Mechanist helmet on, and I think it's adorable. Well, our buddy Thomas, a.k.a. Rarbomb, he went ahead and he made his own version that we think is pretty special. He made a 3D printed tiny version of the Mecha Buddha Cat. And it's great. I think it's just the best thing ever. So that's what we've been up to. Other than that, I haven't been in the shop the last couple days. I've just been doing a lot of housekeeping, answering emails, and all that fun stuff. So I don't really have a lot of stuff to show off. The Mechanist helmet is hiding behind me, though. We're always watching. Yeah, that's all I've got. I mentioned Super Toy Con, San Diego Comic Con. Brittany and I just filmed a vlog for our patrons. We do some Patreon exclusive vlogs every once in a while. So if you're a patron, you can head on over there and get caught up on what we did at Comic-Con. I also have some more videos planned from Comic-Con. We shot a ton of video with my handy little GoPro here. I saw a little action yesterday. I tied it to a RC car and had a couple of incidents. Hopefully I'll be putting those videos up soon. Anyway, this thing, we brought it to Comic-Con. We shot a ton of stuff from the floor, so we'll have a video from that. And we shot a bunch of stuff at the Prop Tart meetup at San Diego Comic-Con. So I'll put up a video for that, hopefully in the next couple of days. Yeah. Ninja Moose says that he sees a uke. Yeah, there's a ukulele from the guys over at CNC Router Parts. I don't know how to play it. I can play. I have a 6-string right there. I know how to play that, but not the ukulele. Not yet, anyway. All right, let's just go ahead and start answering your guys' prop and costume making questions. Yeah, let's do that. Speaking of Ninja Moose has a question about my Superfly green shades. He wants to know where I got them. At Nerd HQ, I just happen to have them right here. At Nerd HQ at Comic-Con, they were giving these away at the Xbox booth. So they're just Xbox branded. If I don't have enough Microsoft Xbox or Zune branded stuff already, now I have some sweet, sweet shades. Oh yeah. Do they give you a boost to foamsmithing? No. They absolutely do not. They make it more difficult to see. So it would probably hinder your foamsmithing. Ninja Moose says, I must have them. Ninja Moose, you're in luck. Tell you what, buddy. We got a couple of pair of these things, and I do not need them. I will send you one. You just send us a message somehow. Through the contact form on our website or Twitter or whatever, and I'll get your address and I'll mail you a pair of sweet green Xbox branded sunglasses. You're in luck. All right. Brooks Creations, sorry, you can't call dibs on the other one. These are mine. I'm keeping these ones, but the other one's Ninja Moose gets. All right. Let's see if we've got some more serious prop and costume making questions. Roland says, I'm about to paint the first foam weapon I've ever made in over 15 years, but I've hit a little snag. The naphtha dissolves my latex seal. Luckily, I made tests, so I haven't screwed up my Skyrim steel axe yet. Do you run into this problem? If so, how did you solve it? I can tell you what I used, all right? I used the Polytech 60. Polylatex 60 is what I used, and the naphtha does not dissolve it. Now, I didn't dump it on there. I mixed up my rubber cement paint, which is mostly naphtha, and I brushed it on. And that seemed to work all right. So, I don't know what to tell you. It could be that you don't have enough pigment in there. Could be you don't have enough rubber cement. I'm not sure. But I used Polytex 60 or Latex 60. And I used naphtha, and that seemed to work all right. So that's what I used. If you're using something different, then perhaps there's an issue there. There are lots of different types of latex. So there you go. That's all I got. Hopefully that helps out. Thank you, Roland. Nick wants to know, when gluing EVA foam layers together with barge cement, I found that larger pieces tend to warp. Have you seen this? Is there any way to prevent it, or should I use a different glue? It really depends on what the final shape is supposed to look like. Like if you have a large panel that you want it to stay flat, if you're laminating 2 layers together, it can warp a bit. You can laminate a flat piece of like styrene plastic in there if you want, just sandwich it in there. But what I've found is if I have 2 sheets of foam, right, and they have glue on either side, and I'm going to stick those together with your contact cement. I don't do this thing. I don't lay it down like that. I just take it and just go and just lay it down flat, right face to face. And that way I found it prevents warping. If you do this, it will actually tend to warp a bit if my visual aid of my arms helps at all. So just take the 2 pieces and just squish them down and then mash them down a whole bunch. And that seems to help quite a bit. Oh, hey, Bob. Bob just hosted us. Thank you, Bob. You are a swell guy. Nick also wants to know, can you recommend a technique for weathering gold paint so it looks old and used but not dirty? You might just try and use a couple of different variations of gold. Different, there are lots of different golds, right? So, good example, when I did my dagger painting on the live stream the other day, I had a couple of different also Nick is pointing out in the chat his Reaper guns were warping slightly. After the fact, you could just jam a rod down the middle of the gun, like right down the barrel, just sharpen it, and or sharpen like a rod, like a dowel or something, and just mash it down the barrel, and that should straighten it out. Or when you're laminating it together, laminate a piece of dowel in there. Kind of like the way Evil Ted did with his axe video. If you haven't watched that video, Evil Ted did an axe video and he laminated a piece of wire, I believe, down the handle. We will put a link to that in the show notes. As far as your weathering gold paint, a really bright gold looks kind of fresh, but you can get darker, duller gold paints. So, you know what? I'm just going to look up real quick because I like the Liquitex heavy body acrylic paint. I'm going to look up what colors they have available. There they are. Nope. Where's the list? I know they have a list of all of their paints. Come on. Come on, Amazon. Don't fail me now. Alright, Liquitex heavy body acrylic paints. I know I've ordered this stuff before. I'm gonna search. Yes, I need to log into Amazon. Thank you. Thank you, Amazon. It'd be kind of cool if I could just publish my order with the stuff I've ordered. Here we go. Alright, cool. This is perfect. So, here we are on Amazon. And for the Liquitex heavy body paints, and we'll put a link to this in the show notes because it's got the you can just pick the color. This giant list. It's not really showing up on the screen, but there are different colors. There we go. So for gold, there's iridescent rich gold. There's iridescent antique gold. There's iridescent bright gold. There are so many different golds. Green gold. Whatever that means. I think those are all the golds. But there, right, just there is like 5 different golds, right? You can just try and layer a couple of different gold colors on top of one another to get some interesting texture and stuff in there. to try and make it look a little more old and worn. And then if you want it to look all patinaed, I believe gold patina is like a greenish, so that's something else you could add to that. All right, and experiment. Like, this is the sort of thing you're just going to want to experiment with, obviously, trying out different layers of color and everything. All right, let's move on. Thank you, Nick, for the question. Let's move on to the next one. This comes from Braxton, and the question is, I'm having trouble with my duct tape dummy. How do you and Britt pattern your costume pieces, and do you have any tips? One thing, we've been saying this for a long time, and it's odd. I just added it on my list. I was working on sorting projects, and specifically video projects today. And duct tape dummy is on the top of that list. Just put it there today. And we will do a video on how to do a duct tape dummy. But there are also plaster bandage castings you can do of your torso, your arms, your legs. If you look up, again, we don't have a particular video on that either. That's on the list. Someday we'll do one of those. But if you look up on YouTube, like plaster body casting or plaster bandage life casting, something like that, you will find a ton of videos on YouTube. Essentially, you wear clothing you don't care about, like a tight, let's say a shirt. You're gonna do your torso. You wear a tight shirt that is not natural fibers, and then you grease it up with a bunch of petroleum jelly so that the plaster bandages don't stick to it. I just went to Goodwill and got like an old biking shirt or something. And then you have a friend help you get plaster bandages wet and then stick them to your body so that you make a mold basically of the front half of you, and then do it to the back half of you with a seam down the middle, and then you split them apart. After about half an hour, you can get out of that thing, and that the seam is important. That means you can get out of it. Then you put them together, put a plaster bandage down the seam to adhere the two halves, and you're good to go. That's the basics of a plaster bandage life casting, and that's how Brittany and I did our life casts that we use to make our patterns for our costumes. And again, you can do the same thing with the duct tape dummy. Again, there are lots of videos on YouTube, but we will be doing one for our channel very soon. Hey, thank you, A&G Piper, for the subscription. 3 months in a row. You guys are great. Hey, this one here comes from our buddy Jake. Have you used a CNC router for etching photographs? I attempted making etchings of old movie posters, but snapped the smallest bits. I am fully prepared to admit I haven't used the CNC I have to its fullest potential. And I did have a 1/32 inch bit, and I did not even get to use it. I put it in the collet, and then as I was centering it, I touched my stock material and snapped the bit at the end of the bit. I did go and buy a bunch of extra 1/16 inch ball nose bits, and those are pretty great. I've broken more than one 1/16 inch bit, so I bought like 3 of them just to make sure I have a bunch on hand. I haven't specifically tried etching photographs. That does sound really cool. From what I've learned, dialing in your skills with the CNC router is an exercise in breaking bits. Once you get this, what they call the feeds and speeds down, and keep track of that stuff too. Make a spreadsheet and keep track of which bits you used, how fast, all the different tool parameters you used, how fast it was feeding, how deep each layer was, what kind of bit you used, so that, and what type of project it was. So if you're trying to cut aluminum, that's going to be a lot more difficult than cutting, say, a 10-pound urethane foam. So yeah, practice, and I definitely have lots to learn when it comes to using that CNC. So good luck, Jake, and I'm excited to see what you make with that thing. But again, like, let me see what a 1/16 inch bit costs. 1/16 inch ball nosed end mill. So, oh, look at that. This is what you want, Jake. All right. A 5-pack. Now these are going to be crappy bits. All right. These are not what would you say? Tungsten carbide. These are it says solid carbide, but I don't know. Anyway, for $9, you get 5 bits, 5 16th-inch bits. They're going to be crap bits, but you're probably going to end up breaking them all. So stock up. And then let's see here, a pack of 10 1/8-inch bits. $10. Boom. So that's what you want to do. Stock up on cheap bits. You're going to break them. All right. Let's grab the next question. Thank you, Jake, for that one. Oh, Trano Taco wants to know how many I've broken. 3 bits so far. I have a tally. I just write it on the side of the machine. Kay wants to know, I'm building a costume which has a helmet. The helmet has a fin on the top, a little like a Roman type of helmet, without the fluffy bit, but still has the foam channel along the top. How do I get the curve on the channel to stick to the top of the helmet? You can do, there's a couple ways. You're going to match that curve, right, to the helmet. Let me see if I know how to... I'm gonna yep, there we go. You can get a thing like one of these flexible curved rulers here. Basically it's a ruler that's got a piece of wire in it, and when you flex it, it stays in that shape. Those can be really handy for... Oop, what did I do? I pasted the wrong thing. There we go. Just pasting that in the notes. Those can be really handy for getting shapes. You basically bend it over the helmet, take it off, lay it down on a piece of paper, trace it, and you've got a rough approximation of that curve. You can also use contour gauge. There we go. You can also use a contour gauge, and here's a just a cheap plastic one. And the way these things work is these plastic blades, so to speak, slide back and forth along a central axis. So it's kind of like those pin things that you stick your face on, and it makes a copy of your face in those like plastic pins, only this is just 2-dimensional. You would lay that across the top of your helmet along the side of it, and it pushes into it and copies the curve. Then again, you pull it off the... You pull it off of the form, and you've got a copy of that arc from your helmet, and then you can trace it to your material, and that ought to do it. So there's a couple of tools you can use right there to copy your helmet curve. That one came to us from Kay. Yeah, there you go. That ought to work. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, Jake is in the chat. He says, talking about those bits. He was hesitant to buy more originally after finding out how easily they break. Yeah, Jake, I ended up going, for example, when I snapped the first 1/16 inch or 1/32 inch bit, I immediately went to Inventable's website to buy another one. And not only were they pricey, but they were all out because apparently I wasn't the only person that destroyed their bits immediately. So I went to Amazon, looked around a little bit, and was like, hey, there's some cheap ones that I can knock around without having to worry too much about hurting my wallet. All right, next question comes to our buddy Corium9. I spray painted something, waited the 10 to 20 minute handling time, then put it in my car so I wouldn't forget it for the next day. Of course, the next morning, the inside of my car smelled lovely, and I just drove a bit with the windows down. Still, due to the amount of work we do that makes dust, smoke, fumes, and other stuff that should not be inhaled, well, I was a little worried. Am I being paranoid? Are there things that release hazardous things while curing and definitely should not be left overnight in a confined space like a car? I wouldn't leave curing polyester resin in your car. So if you cast something like fiberglass and it hasn't cured all the way, I would not leave that in the car. That's pretty nasty stuff. I wouldn't leave an open can of Barge in the car, but once it's glued, it should be just fine. But again, it's while things are curing, while they're still off-gassing. Spray paint wouldn't be too bad, but I don't imagine it. Sitting in your car isn't the best place for it to dry. I would leave it out and make a reminder. Put a post-it note in your car. Say, remember to get my thing. Oh, back on the CNC bits. Bob's in the chat, and he says you can get them bits even cheaper from China on eBay if you don't mind waiting for shipping. I think 5 bits for $10 is okay though. I'm willing to pay that price. Yeah, I wouldn't leave most drying things in the car anyway, just cause they're not going to dry well in there. But there are definitely a couple of things that are not good to leave while they're still off gassing, especially things like polyesters, or even urethanes. And you also want to worry about it getting hot. So if you have if you live in the desert, or if it's even Seattle's getting pretty warm these days. My car overheated yesterday on the highway, which was wicked fun adventure. You can have urethanes will warp if they get too hot, depending on the urethane. But like Smoothcast 300, if you have like a thin piece, you can put it in your car, and it gets up to like 100 degrees in there, it could warp. So that's just a lot of things to consider when leaving stuff in your car. If you're worried about forgetting it, leave yourself a note. Stuff should be left in a well-ventilated area when it's curing. All right. Chewing through these questions. Let's see here. Venger, another one of our regulars, says, can you tell us why you don't take commissions anymore? Also, what is your advice to hobbyist prop makers who want to start selling their props? Have you had much experience dealing with difficult people, etc.? The main reason why we don't, as a company, why we don't take commissions anymore is because we've migrated our business model over to building content. So the mostly the books and videos that we do, that is our primary aim for our business right now. That's how we've been able to figure out how to monetize that, so we can actually earn an income from that. And it's the way we've done it, it has become more sustainable to us than taking commission work. A lot more consistent income, which is challenging when you're self-employed, especially we have 2 people and 2 cats that we have to feed. That's the main reason why we don't take commissions anymore. We can pick projects sort of on a whim. If I have a video that I need to get up on Monday, I can literally do whatever I want to film it. I don't have to just work on a commission thing that I've got a deadline on. That doesn't mean that we completely don't take commissions anymore. For example, my buddy Frank Ippolito hired me to build a giant foam axe for E3, and that just worked out really well because Frank's my buddy. He pays pretty well, and it was a cool project, and I knew I could knock out a good video on it too. So when the stars align, we do occasionally take commissions. So that's the main reason why we've shifted away from that. Let's see here. Experience. Do I have experience working with difficult people? You know what? I've been pretty fortunate. Most of the people we've worked with so far have been very reliable. I've worked with a couple of companies like Wizards of the Coast and Crystal Dynamics and a couple others. They've all worked out really well. I don't have a ton of experience working with a lot of big companies. I will say any of the client work, just like personal client work I've done, has been really great. Our clients have all been awesome. So a lot of that comes down to things like when we did take commissions, we would get 50% of the price up front. And then we wouldn't mail it out until we got the remaining 50%. That keeps everyone honest, and that's just a good policy to have. Let's see here. Yeah. Oh, it looks like Venger's curious about customers. He's curious about people's expectations. If someone's going to buy something from you, people do have this mentality where, and I do too. When I go to the store, I just buy a thing off the shelf. End of transaction, no problem. And if there is a problem, there's usually a warranty, and I can just take it back. And it's not the same with commission work, especially if you're making original or just say custom work, right? You're building a prototype, basically. That lies on you as the commissioner to inform your clients what the situation is. In fact, I've got a video. Oh, we'll have to find it and put it in the show notes. But I did a video kind of explaining the commission process, how that works. But you can come up with a contract beforehand if you like. Say, hey, here's the job that we're gonna do. Here's the estimate price that I'm working on. If you get your thing and you're not happy with it, here's a set of conditions for that. You could say, oh, if it breaks, then here's a clause for what it would cost to repair it. There's a lot of stuff you could put into like a very informal contract you send to your client, just so that everyone's on the same page. Yeah, but mostly it really comes down to communication, just so that all the parties involved understand what's going on. Avenger has another question. Running tests on using interior latex paint from the hardware store as a substitute for latex paint that you use. I'm brand new to spray guns, though. I am following the rule of thumb to thin my paint to a milk-like consistency. What viscosity do you mix your latex paint to? Just as a note, my latex paint is Polytech Latex 60 latex, all right? With acrylic paint mixed into it. Latex house paint, I have no idea what that stuff is. I don't know what the chemical makeup of it is, and I don't know if it's flexible the way that I want my latex rubber to be. So I don't know if that's going to work at all for costume or prop making. I've never tried it. I would recommend getting proper latex rubber and just mixing in your pigments. Just acrylic paints work fine. That's how I would recommend doing it. But yeah, if you want to give it a try with that latex house paint, give it a go, but try it out on a small scrap piece. I have no idea what's going to happen. Good luck. And thank you for your question, Avenger. Here we go. Let's see here. Another one comes from our buddy Jex. Our buddy from down in Portland, who's been kicking all the butts with his costumes lately. Let's see. He says, hope SDCC was as fun as it looked. Yes, it was equal parts fun and really hot out. I was wondering if there was a latex application specific tutorial that I'm missing. I'm looking to use it to seal my upcoming armor build and wanted to follow along a bit if there was an existing application, tint suggestion, or process out there. A couple things for you. The new book, the Foamsmith 2, talks about how I did this axe right here. Whoop, there it is. The axe right there. That is my preferred application method for latex, and the book covers all of that because it covers that whole build. We also did a couple live streams, I think, a little while ago on doing a Dwarven sword where I sealed that with latex. So there's a video for that too up on the YouTube channel, and that should give you more insight as well. And of course, we will link to that in the show notes. But if you look up Dwarven sword on my YouTube channel, you'll probably find it. Essentially, though, you get your latex. The Polytech 60 comes in like a paste. I thin it 50-50 by volume with distilled water. And then if I want to tint it, I just mix in a little bit of paint, some acrylic paint. And then you can just brush it on. You can spray it if you want, but you can just brush it if that's all you got. And you brush on a layer and let it dry. I try and brush them thin enough so it takes about an hour or less to dry fully. And then once it's dried, you can brush on another layer. And I would put many, many layers on to make it very durable. And you can mix up different colors if you want. You can't really mask and spray it. That won't work. But you can just hand brush stuff on. If you do have a sprayer, like a critter spray gun and an air compressor, then you can just spray layers on. Usually I will brush on 2 layers and then spray like 5 or 6. Although after running around on my Mechanist, the shoes got beat up a little bit. So anywhere that's going to get some wear and tear, I would say you can't put on too much latex. 10 layers if you want a really thick layer of latex on there. Just don't put on so much per layer that it's going to drip or sag. So there you go. There's my quick 2-minute latex talk, but we've got some more links that we'll have in the show notes for you to check out later, both video and book form. Thank you, Jex. Next, Oscar wants to know, I'm working on a King Shark costume from Assault on Arkham. And we got a picture here. There we go. Looks like a creepy dude. All right, so that's what he's working on. That's what Oscar's working on. Let's see the rest of the question here. I made the patterns for the armor and jaw piece, but instead of doing makeup on my head, I wanted to make the head completely out of foam. Do you have any tips for making the skin section? Usually if I have to do anything organic, I will end up sculpting it a little bit with a hot knife if you want to get any texture in there. The EVA foam looks manufactured very smooth right out of the gate, and you want to kind of break that down a little bit to make it a little bit more textured. I will say, actually, if you're going to seal it with latex, this would be a perfect job for it, because that's going to make it look all smooth and skin-like. The latex, when it dries, kind of has a skin-like consistency to it. But really, it's going to come down to adding detail and texture to that foam piece to make it not look like foam anymore. And you can use a hot knife or a wood-burning tool, or you can use like a Dremel with a bunch of different bits to kind of carve into that. This is going to be the sort of thing where you're going to practice a bunch on some scraps of foam beforehand to kind of get your technique down to achieve the specific look that you're going for. Yeah, so there you go, Oscar. Just you got a little bit of practice and fun ahead of you. So good luck with that. That's an ambitious build you have there. You guys in the chat, you prop tarts have a habit of picking some incredibly ambitious costumes, and I'm right there with you. That's awesome. Let's see. Jake in the chat says Frank's Lego Man skin looked disturbingly realistic. I'm gonna bring up. Hey, my print's all done, everybody! Hooray! Good job, Ultimaker. I gotta look up Frank's Lego Man real quick. Just to note, though, that was done in silicone. Silicone has a very skin-like consistency to it. So it was molded, and then they ran silicone through it. I believe the people at Immortal Mask did it for him. Let's go to Instagram, look up Frank Ippolito, so that you guys can all have nightmares. There it is, creepy fig. Yeah, so that looks like skin. You can see the creases in the weird knuckles are all kind of more of a red color. He put lots and lots of different flesh tones on there to get that final look. And that's all done with paint, probably silicone paint, I would imagine. But the base of that was done in silicone. Again, Immortal Mask, I believe, ran it for him. But yeah, so that's different, a little bit different than latex. So you gotta use different paint for that. But it's got that stretch and feel of skin. So not only does Creepy Fig look creepy, it probably feels really creepy too. They did a video. They're doing a couple of videos on how they put that together. So those will all be on Tested's YouTube channel. A&G Piper wants to know, when are you coming back to the UK? I don't know yet. I really do want to go. I will tell you right now that we are starting on the path of home purchasing. And it turns out it's going to be a little bit longer of a road than we had planned. We probably won't be able to get the ball rolling on that until 2017, which is fine. We have plenty to keep us busy until then. But that means traveling between now and then is probably going to be out of the picture. Whatever. Probably won't be able to add any more trips to our current plan until then, because we gotta save the money that we have so that we can go buy a house. But if I get invited to a convention there and they fly me out, then that would be awesome. So if you have a convention that's looking for guests, send them to our convention appearances page. Otherwise, after we purchase a house come 2017, we may look to do some freelance traveling and just travel on our own, like grown-ups. How about that? What if I traveled somewhere and there wasn't a convention there? What if I just went there for fun? It's such a foreign idea to me right now. Thank you, A&G Piper. Whoops. What did I do? Undo. There we go. Sylvain, pronounced. What are some good colors to start with when building up a variety of acrylic paints to use on foam armor? Now, foam armor specifically, it doesn't really describe the type of armor that you might be talking about. So like metal, plastic, polycarbonate. So it really depends on what it is you're going to be building, what the base material is supposed to look like. If you want to make it look like metal, you can look up the where is he? Behind me, the Mechanist helmet right there. Both that one and the dagger painting video that I uploaded recently will give you a pretty good baseline of how you can make metallic looking finishes with foam armor. Those guys were two different types of paint. One was rubber cement paint. One was acrylic paint. But the methodology behind what colors of paint to lay down are very, very similar to those two builds. So go over there and check those out and see how we got a pretty good metallic finish. And if you're making metallic armor, then that's one way to do it. But if you have some other finish you're trying to make for your particular armor, then you're going to have to do a little bit of experimenting or see what other people have done specifically to get the look that you want. But I'm always looking for an excuse to buy more paint and play with it. So you should too. All right. Let's see here. We got an active chat, by the way. You guys are awesome. I want to pause for a moment. Just take the chance to call out how great it is to have a really, really supportive and fantastic chat, and that keeps it great for me. That's why I like hanging out with you. We have T-Main says, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of fanboying in here. You should be. There's a lot of really cool people in the chat that are fanboy worthy. All right, let's grab another question. That last one was from Sylvan. Next one comes from Lee. Aside from PVC pipes, couplings, and screw ends, are there any good sturdy, lightweight reinforcement materials that are easy to attach to one another to make it easy to break your prop down for travel? I had considered aluminum rods at one point, but I couldn't figure out how to make them attach to each other. With the tools I had lying around the house, I'm worried the PVC couplings, screws, and caps will break or rotate on my prop, and I was looking for something sturdier. I'll show you what I got in here. I think this is like 1.25 inches PVC right there. That's as far as that is in there. It's only in about 3/4 of an inch. And that's the coupling in there. Now, this is a pretty wide PVC pipe, but that right there is enough to keep this from... And now, I'm not LARPing with this. I'm not hitting anyone with it. In fact, if I swing, this will pop out. But as far as cosplay and just posing with it, that works just fine with just PVC pipe. And I've done this with thinner pieces that worked just fine. If you want to experiment, you can get... let's see, you can get like fiberglass rods or carbon fiber tubes. If you look up, if you have a kite store, believe it or not, kites are sometimes made of carbon fiber tubes, and they have all kinds of like connectors and coupling things to attach all of them. So go poke around at a kite store if you've got one nearby. So there you go. I think the PVC pipe works for me, it's worked so far pretty good. I did the same thing with the For Honor axe, and that was an even thinner one, and that worked just fine. put my axe back. There we go. All right, let us soldier forward. Thank you, Lee. Next person is Harry. I've been making an Ana gun from Overwatch, and I went through a horrid time trying to glue the PVC for the barrel on. Do you use PVC pipe for anything? And if so, how would you go about gluing it? Also, is cutting plastic with a saw deemed toxic? Those are a couple of really good questions. If you're gluing PVC pipe to other PVC, you can get PVC cement. And this is available just in the plumbing section of your hardware store. PVC cement. It is slightly toxic. Here's all kinds of stuff. It's just a quick search on Amazon. PVC cement. Super easy. It does... Yeah, it smells terrible. You know, wear a respirator and all that, or do it outside. But that, if you're gluing PVC to PVC, that'll do it right there. If you're gluing PVC to something else, I've had plenty good luck just sanding the PVC using contact cement like Barge and gluing it to foam. That's worked just fine. Super glue will probably work really well too, and I bet hot glue would work as well. As far as cutting your PVC plastic, now they're in toxicity. As far as I know, acrylic is just fine, or styrene. You're not going to have too many problems with that. With PVC, you do have to be careful that you're not if you're cutting it with, say, a cutoff wheel on a Dremel. It's really kind of more grinding it, right? Or using like a scroll saw, a reciprocating saw. A bandsaw is the best way to do it because the blade keeps moving. It doesn't reciprocate. Anytime you have a repetitive motion in a small space, you have the chance to melt the plastic. So if you're trying to cut it with your cutoff wheel on a Dremel and it's just mashing it into the plastic and it starts to turn brown, if the white plastic starts to turn brown, that means it's burning, and that's really bad. It does release chlorine gas when it burns. So if that does happen, set it away, leave the room, and let it just chill for a while. But if you're just using a handsaw, if you're using a bandsaw, which is what I recommend, you shouldn't have that problem. I'll even use, like, I've got a miter saw, just a chop saw, and if I'm going to cut PVC, especially if I have to cut a bunch of them, I use that, and it cuts it so fast it doesn't have a chance to burn. It's the burning that you really want to look out for, because that is in fact toxic. So the glue is kind of toxic, and the burning is toxic. But if you avoid those things, you should be fine. just use super glue. You'll be all right. All right. That one came to us from Harry, and our next one that comes from Brittany, not Lady Longshanks, a different Brittany. So, I recently got Barge Cement for the first time. Do you use Barge Cement to glue your foam? Yes, I do. Also, I read the back of the label, and it seems pretty unhealthy to be around. That's correct. So now I'm scared to use it. So, if you work in a well-ventilated area, that is to say in a shop or a garage or outside, and you're not huffing it, you should be fine. Just for safety, you should be wearing an organic vapor respirator. And we'll look that up. Respirator. So if we look on Amazon, one of these guys right here, those things are what you want. And so basically, if you can smell the toluene in there, then that's bad news. So work in a well-ventilated area, wear a respirator, and you will be just fine. Don't get it on your skin. If you can avoid it, wear rubber gloves. And wash your hands after you use it. But yeah, there's no reason to be afraid of it. People have been using it just fine. Many people have been using it just fine for a long time. You can too, so long as you take the best safety precautions. I will say that Barge does have a super crazy version that they sent me, and that says specifically to not open in your house, and I am afraid of, so I haven't opened it yet. All right, thank you, Brittany, for the question. We got a couple more here, And we got a few more minutes, so let's tackle these. Max Money AWA wants to know, I want to make a close-fitting boot cover out of foam for Green Lantern costume based on the Kyle Rayner version. Have you ever used zippers to secure foam together? I saw some pictures online, but they don't say how the zipper was secured. If you have done this, what did you use? I would recommend sewing your zipper to a larger piece of cloth, something sturdy, something that isn't going to stretch. So, like, let's say, for example, denim, right? Denim isn't going to stretch. So on either side of the zipper, make like a 2-inch strip of a sturdy cloth. Sew your zipper to that. Then that cloth, you can barge to your foam, and it's got a lot of surface area to really hold it down tight. You could probably even like super glue around, or hot glue around the edges after you've barged it down, just to make sure it doesn't peel up or anything. But the barge really should hold it. That'll work out really great. Basically, though, you're extending the edges of your zipper so that you have a lot of surface area for glue to stick it down to your foam, and that will work just fine. I've seen similar things done with Warbler that worked out, and it should work just fine with foam. Thank you, Max Money. Cheers to you. Oh, I see in the chat there, Angie Piper says, I can't buy Barge in the UK because it's illegal. That's because they don't like toluene, for good reason. Look up, if you're in the UK, look up Alpha is the name of the company, and the glue is called Thixofix. Thixofix. Alpha Thixofix. There you go. Problem solved. Does the same thing. Forger of Masks wants to know, when selling props from particular games and movies, is there a particular license or permit that is needed for selling these? This comes up quite a lot. I'm going to have to do a video on this pretty soon. In fact, let me see here. I'm going to add that to my list of videos. There we go. I have a lot of thoughts on that. I've been mulling over. I think I'm ready to put those into video form. But here's the gist of it, right? The prop and costume making community, people who sell props from video games where they didn't make, there is a path you can take to get a license. If you look at companies like Quantum Mechanics, QMX, or who else did we see at EFX, or a handful of other companies like Project Triforce, that do sell replicas, right, of props and cool stuff. They have a license. Anovos, another good example. They have a license from Disney to do Star Wars stuff. And there are channels through which you can take to acquire said licenses. They usually cost money. And example with QMX, I believe they're working on a really cool Millennium Falcon that I was drooling over when I was at Comic-Con. And they build it, and then they have to get it approved by the people who own the IP. They had to get Disney to approve and say, yep, that looks good. You are allowed to sell it now. But that's what they get for having purchased Lucasfilm for like $6 billion. They're allowed to do that. It's their IP. And as the person who is going to sell things of their IP, you do have to bend to their will. But that is the traditional path through which the makers of things have gone about selling replicas of stuff that they don't own the rights to. They form licensing agreements. Now, a lot of the prop making community doesn't do that. They simply make a thing from their favorite video game or from their favorite movie, and then they just put it up on their Etsy store or on the store on their website, and they sell it. That's sort of like this weird, I don't want to say it's a gray area. It's still fairly black and white. They don't have a license, and the company that owns the IP can totally tell them to knock it off. It's just that in most cases they don't, or they haven't yet. But that is to say, if I was selling a bunch of Mass Effect guns on my store like I used to, and EA came to me and said, hey, you can't do that anymore, I would have to be like, oh, okay, cool. I won't sell Mass Effect guns anymore. They just chose not to. I'm under no impression that they didn't know I was doing it. They totally knew I was doing it. They just chose not to pursue that. For whatever reason. They have their own reasons. But if you are a person who is going to sell props on the internet that you made and you did not get a license for it, you simply run the risk of the company who does own those things telling you that you can't make it anymore. If you don't heed their cease and desist, then they may pursue you with legal action, and that's their prerogative. So if you do get a cease and desist, then simply say, oh, okay, cool, I won't sell anymore. And actually don't sell anymore. Don't rename it Laser Sword instead of Lightsaber and and put it back up on Etsy. If you get a C&D, actually stop doing it. That's another main reason why we don't do like commissions anymore or kits anymore, just because we don't have licenses. And as far as running a company where we want to have consistent income, we can't really roll the dice on whether or not we're going to get a C&D. So, but again, people can choose what they want to do. Jake in the chat says Bethesda totally shut me down for Fallout merch. Technically, ZeniMax, they own Bethesda, and they tend to be litigious. So just know that. If you're making fun stuff on the side as a hobby and you throw a handful of them up on Etsy, not a big deal. If a company tells you to cut it out, cut it out. Good to go. So there you go. Good question, Forger of Masks. Ninja Moose wants to know, how do you box or ship large props such as the Tomb Raider bow you made and or the District 9 rifle? District 9 rifle, I made a large wooden box for that. And some of the parts came apart, like the big tube on the bottom unscrewed. But basically, it went in a box with a crap ton of like upholstery foam. But I had to design a box specifically for that, which is a pain. It's one of my least favorite things to do. But that's what you got to do. If you're making a custom prop, you got to get a custom box. Other things, the Tomb Raider bow wasn't that big of a problem. It doesn't have any bits that are going to snap off, so that just went in a cardboard box. It was packed very well with bubble wrap and packaging peanuts, so that was just fine. But other bigger, weirder things, you got to make some custom boxes. If you want to see some wacky custom boxes, go look at what Harrison over at Volpin Props builds for some of his crazy contraptions. So head on over and check that out. Let's pile through a couple more here, and then we're gonna end this thing. Krim wants to know. Ooh, we have a visual. Let's see here. I want to build the sword known as Dai Maru. I've heard that when it's swung around, it smells like oranges. How would you go about doing something like that? Or what would your recommendations be for something like this? Okay. Here's the challenge. There's the sword. Kind of looks like an orange. You got to make it smell like an orange too. I might get they got to make like Febreze, like citrus smelling Febreze or something like that. I'm guessing. I don't know a lot about that. But maybe you could just spray that on the prop and the smell will linger. You probably have to reapply it every once in a while. I don't know. I've never thought about the smell of my sword. Maybe you could put a Febreze sprayer in the sword, and when you swing it, you push the thing and it sprays. It mists out some orange scented Febreze. I don't even know if they make orange scented Febreze, but you could look around. Sounds like something you're gonna have to get. You're gonna have to get a little creative with. But that's a new question. I haven't gotten anything like that before. Thank you, Krim. Dale says, how do you go about judging if a project is too ambitious for your skill set? I usually start, and a day or two into the project, I'll know. You have that moment of desperation where you're like, I'm in the weeds and I have no idea what I'm doing. What do you do when you have decided a project is too ambitious? I usually either modify the project to my skill set or abandon it. Do you shelve it later? Yeah, I've done that before. I've just shelved a project and come back to it later. 2 more questions and then we'll be all done. William from DLC Props says, I'm working on a Dawn Guard heavy armor set from Skyrim and I'm using foam for the shoulder and knee armor. How do you go about deciding what material to use when making different pieces of a costume? I usually make them all out of foam. For the most part, I mean, I just did the Mechanist costume. I made that all out of foam. The undersuit was cloth. But other than that, foam and cloth is all I needed. Although I'll tell you what, I 3D printed those ear things. I don't know. It's just, once you kind of have a knack for knowing what different materials and techniques can pull off, you'll probably get a good idea of which one of those techniques to apply to different parts of the costume. So the chest piece on the Mechanist had some knobs and stuff. I 3D printed those. Those are way easier to do that way than make them out of foam. But just the more and more things you build, the more familiar you are with different materials and techniques, the more you'll know which ones to apply in different situations. Finally, Pico Legion says, do you have any idea if the $12 Harbor Freight Respirator is adequate for Barge? You know what? Instead of messing around, if there's anything you should not be economical about, it's safety equipment. So just go to Amazon, look up Organic Vapor. We looked this up before. Look it up again. Organic Vapor Respirator. And this one right here is $45. It has 4.5 stars. It's on Amazon Prime. That's probably the one you should buy. So there you go. Here's a full face mask one. I don't think that's necessary. But this guy right here. In fact, you know what? We'll just leave a link to that in the show notes. If you want to get a bargain on this, apparently you can just buy 4 of them. And in fact, I'm gonna. I know I've got a respirator that's seen better days, so I'm gonna get some. I'm gonna get some organic vapor inserts for mine. So I'm just gonna leave that open, and I'll order that myself later. All right, that's it. Those are all the questions. Thank you guys so much for leaving such great questions. A lot of good ones. Some new ones today. Like making your prop smell like oranges. Let me know how that turns out, by the way. I want to hear how your orange sword turns out. Cool. That's it for this week's Prop Live. Thank you again so much for hanging out. We will have one next week on Thursday, like normal. We'll have the normal live stream on Tuesday, too. But Friday morning, I fly out to Super Toy Con in Las Vegas. Again, if you're going to be in Vegas, head on over there. Come hang out. It's going to be really fun. I'll have some costumes. I'll be judging the costume contest. I will be doing a panel or 2. So head on over there. That's all we've got. I have to get back to work getting some San Diego Comic-Con videos put together for you guys. So look forward to those coming out in the next couple days. Until I see you on the next live stream, thanks so much for checking out Prop Live, and we will see you all next week. So long, everybody.